How's it going everyone, Rival Rye here and welcome back to the channel. Now, I'm a big fan of the Pokemon TCG. Now, I don't play it competitively, I'm a bit more on the casual side for that. I like to play a quick game every now and then. But what I do love is collecting the cards. Now, I took a big break for years from the early sets up until about the middle of last year when Scarlet and Violet began its TCG set run. In fact, definitely doing this channel helped with that. I started collecting both the 151 set because clearly I can't let go of the past. And I also decided to collect the Paradox Rift set. From previous experience, I made the educated decision to focus on just collecting these two sets alone. When you scatter and try and collect too many of them or open random packs, it becomes difficult to get into a rhythm. So I felt like it was important just to focus on these two sets. Since then, I've had this thing called life get in the way of my hobbies and I've had to slow down opening packs or even creating content on YouTube. That's why I've hardly uploaded in the last 6 weeks. That, and I also made the genius decision to collect 151, which is an incredibly expensive set and has not really dropped in price over that time, at least for things like ETBs. Yeah, so that one's my problem. But since the release of these two sets, which was back to back, and also that life thing that I have, the Pokemon TCG has released 4 sets along with another one due in September 2024 and another due later in the year. Now, this isn't necessarily new. Pokemon's TCG has always released multiple sets per year, and with it slowly creeping up to about 5 or 6 now, it has already received criticism for how many sets are released at any given moment. So you can argue it's been overwhelming for years, but at the moment I would argue the exhaustion of the franchise is at an all-time high for the TCG, and it fits in with the frustration that people have currently with the main series games as well. And this isn't related to just the collecting side of it, this is the TCG as a whole. We're going to break down the major factors of why the Pokemon TCG has felt a little weird to me over the last few months, to the point where opinions are even more divided than ever on my timeline with the current state of it. And it's to the point where I don't really see the same opinion twice. So if you're new here to the channel, firstly, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button. I've been away for a while for this channel as I've been moving location, but I now have a permanent setup. For those who have been here before, you'll know that I try and operate on a constructive criticism manner towards Pokemon. And the major issue the TCG currently has is the main points of consumption has players either worried or unable to afford it, which has caused frustration or even some to walk away from the TCG in general. What are the main points of consumption for the TCG? Well, the first is the competitive side. This is usually done in person and accumulates in the World Championships held every year. The second is for the collectors, those who open packs and try complete master sets within the fanbase. The third is for those who are more casually involved in the TCG. They would generally gravitate towards playing or being involved in the TCG only a little bit, so they might play a bit of TCG live and open a few packs on there, for example. This is a free-to-play option and also a very low maintenance way to take part in the TCG. All three of these have had situations this year that have changed the standpoint for consumers. Starting with the competitive side, it's been well documented the issues and changes that have been announced in 2024 for the qualification for the 2025 World Championships. I'll try and condense this as much as I can, but essentially the regional best finish limit in America has dropped from 6 to 4 and the international best limit has dropped to 2, essentially meaning players only receive points for a limited amount of events and potentially decreasing the amount of events for those to play. Now, if that was the only caveat, then the changes would make sense. Regardless of how you see it as a fan or a person, the competitive side of it is a competition for the best players. If the bracket is shortened solely based on that, then it implies the best will be there no matter what, because they qualify, right? Unfortunately, that just isn't the case. In the words of Reddit, this is where the wallet warriors will end up winning, a term I have never heard before looking into the competitive side of Pokemon, but wallet warriors? The internet really thinks of creative ways to call people, honestly. Essentially, tournament winners are invited, which is good, but if you finish as a runner-up to a great player who got the right role at the right time, that could be your chances over if you aren't going to go to many more regional competitions. Hence, those who have more of a disposable income can travel to as many as they want in order to seize the opportunity to qualify for Worlds, whilst those who have a limited capacity to do so will get squeezed out for those who can just throw money at it, hence being a wallet warrior. A total of 211 people qualify for the current season from North America, and this will be dropping to 75 for next year. As I said, in theory this makes sense. At the end of the day, you want the best of the best there in order to have the best competitive competition. But if some of those places are taken up by those who are wallet warriors, then that decreases your opportunities further to qualify. And with a variable card game like Pokemon, it can quite easily come down to one flip of the coin, or one draw, or one tiny misplay. Of course, this is the nature of competition competition, but then somebody across for you who you beat, but has mega bucks to go to the next competition whereas you don't, ends up qualifying because of their access to money, not a reflection on ability, you will naturally be a little frustrated. This has led to multiple people potentially are already quitting the TCG, because the field has narrowed down for those who can qualify. And sure, the devil's advocate could say if you aren't good enough you should just get good, or is that just a term from when I used to sit and play games all day? Have I become old? I feel like I have. But there's also no doubting that while it's decreased the size of competitors to potentially narrow the field of them, by technically making it a stronger competitive pool, it has also benefited those who have the ability to spend money by travelling all over, compared to those who have a limited amount of regionals they can go to. There could be a saving grace for this, as some online tournaments have been promised, but there's certainly no doubt that a lot of TCG players are concerned and do not like the changes, and understandably so. Now, the collectors of the TCG have a different issue entirely. Whilst competitive players see a tightening on places to go to Worlds, meaning potentially less regionals, the collectors are actually facing a massively saturated market to the point where it makes it hard to collect anything anymore. Now, I have covered this before and made this comparison, but let's look at myself and what I'm currently collecting. So I went for 151 and Paradox Rift, which according to the website I use for collection would be a total of $865 and $740 respectively, which for my English brain is around £650 and £560, or $1,605, £1,240 combined for both. Now, this is the price for buying cards individually, which is the recommended idea for buying cards when doing a master set. The problem is that's a massive expense to occur in one particular go. Of course, you can get lucky and get some cards cheaper, or may end up getting some cards more expensive, but it's still a lottery at the end of the day. And if you're committing to the lottery, you may as well take the gamble, and I say that in very big quotation marks, and try and get lucky with your standard opening pack methods. There are a multitude of different methods. You've got loose packs, elite trainer boxes, booster boxes and more. Problem is there's no guarantee you're going to get the cards you need. There's technically a guarantee of what you'll end up getting in terms of rarity, but not which specific card you're going to get by the end. For example, in my first ETB for Paradox Rift, I hit the most expensive card in the set, which was a Roaring Moon card. Now, that combined with the other special cards I got in that ETB, it was a massive cost saving on buying the cards individually. Now, of course, that Roaring Moon card has dropped in price significantly from when I got it, but on initial look it was a massive saving. On 151, however, I've ended up getting a lot of the special cards, but I did not get the Charizard card, which is the most expensive. So as it currently stands, to master the whole set, I will have to fork out a decent amount of money just to get that one particular card. Both methods have their risks and positives. You should choose whichever method you want to use on your own risk, but regardless, if you're committing to it, you're committing to a plan to try and complete a set. And there's a lot of sets to choose from when you do this, because there's that many that have been released or are going to be. Like I've already said, this isn't exactly new for the TCG. The average amount of sets each year has fluctuated over time, to the point where now we're on 5 or 6 a year. But something has changed, and that's how far in advance these sets were announced. As of the release of this video, an upcoming set is going to be Stellar Crown. Now, this was announced in June, with it due to arrive in September. The problem with that is that Shrouded Fable has already been announced and was due to release in August. As such, are you going to go for Shrouded Fable now if you know Stellar Crown is coming out after it? You might hesitate to see what's available in Stellar Crown, especially when you consider its theme. Not just that, but we also know that there's going to be one in November as well, which is called Surging Sparks, with the front of it featuring Pikachu, so it might be worth waiting for that one instead. But a few weeks after the release of Shrouded Fable, we also got the reveal at Pokemon Worlds of the return of not just trainer Pokemon cards, but a tease for the big one, which is going to be a future Rocket set, something that's been long rumoured by fans and really wanted. Now, for those who aren't aware of the history, both of these sets, which have been done before, are some of the most heavily favoured sets ever released in the Pokemon TCG, with some of the cards from these sets constituting some of the most expensive cards available, especially when you consider the Dart specification for Pokemon such as Dragonite and Charizard in the Rocket set, whilst the Gym set included Blaine's Charizard and Gyarados for Misty and Giovanni. And that's just to name a few of the highlights from both the trainer Pokemon and the Rocket set. Now, of course, these cards have time and history behind them, which contribute to their price and favourability, but we now know they're on the way again. So you don't have any current sets and you're looking at investing in one. One has just been released, but the next one has already been teased for a while and spoken about. So clearly this one's going to be worth it. But they're already teasing the return of sets that were valuable and are exciting in 2025. So why would you invest in any of them currently? And the market has clearly seen that. If I wanted to invest in Stellar Crown now, it's already on sale before release date for an Elite Trainer box. And that's in multiple locations. Because the overload of sets that has come and are coming is an incredible amount. And sure, collections isn't necessarily about the money. For some it is, and that's fair. But how can you get invested in a set when you already know 2 sets are on this way this year? But we also have future sets for some that could be really popular and incredible in 2025. After all, it's a lot of money to invest because it's not cheap to start collecting. The roots of collecting, whether it's buying a chance at a good card or just buying the individual cards, is expensive no matter what. And to top that off, we have an oversaturated market with loads more sets in the pipeline. So why would you start on any current set now? Now, the third category is the casual players. When it comes to the TCG and playing the game, I definitely fall into this category a bit more. And it's someone who really wants to play a little bit, but not necessarily all the time. Just pick up and play a quick game sort of thing. When it comes to TCG games, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has it nailed down with 2 separate options. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links is a shortened format that is quite successful, and Master Duel is a great option for the full duel as a casual player. Are they without their problems? No, of course not, but they are at least in a decent direction. Pokemon, on the other hand, for casual players is also a little bit up in the air. I have gone in depth about this previously in terms of my issues with TCG Live in the past, so for a bit more of an in-depth look at why that game has some serious issues, please check out the following video. Pokemon TCG Live is a problem. And it's a problem that we need to solve. And it's a shame because TCG Live does have some positives that could really help the community going forward. The simple reality is it doesn't have the right basis as of yet. Not only is it not available on console, which I think is a massive disservice to it as an option, because therefore its availability to players massively drops because not everybody has a gaming computer, but it also has bugs and issues that have not been resolved as of yet. Granted, it's never going to be released on PlayStation or Xbox, of course, but games like Unite or multiple other Pokemon games have been released on the Switch. So why isn't TCG Live there? So that's one issue to begin with. But we also have TCG Pocket on the way as well. TCG Pocket looks like a good option to open packs and almost seemingly plays TCG in a shortened format, similar to Duel Links. But as of doing this video, it's an untested method, so I don't know how successful it's going to be. It could be fantastic and therefore I can't judge it yet, and from the trailer alone, it certainly looks like something that TCG Live could learn from, but it's not a fully tried and tested method yet. So casually, we don't really have a proper way to play the game. Now, sometimes I often feel like a negative Nelly on the Pokemon YouTube collective, and trust me, I really don't want to be like that. The major issue with Pokemon nowadays is that there's so many opinions that exist that it's incredibly hard to look at things objectively. It's very easy to think that everything comes down to Game Freak, Nintendo, and Pokemon in general is some sort of nasty evil conglomerate who are out to ruin everything for you and extort money from you, but it's only fair to look at these problems and try and see if there's a reason why they exist. On the competitive side, these places are booked out well in advance. Too many people there could mean that they can't get everybody in, so a smaller venue could be booked if there's not as many people there, or at a minimum people could move around a lot more, and we could also argue this is at least an attempt to try and make sure that everybody that goes is the best in class. Collection wise, if it's popular, naturally they're gonna create more and more. Pokemon pack openings continue to be popular on YouTube, TikTok or Twitch, so why would you ever slow down making them? After all, the fans want more. We also don't have a game that effectively allows us to play the Pokemon TCG in a casual format. TCG Live's less than enthusiastic response from fans, as it was a replacement for TCG Online, was not exactly a successful venture to begin with. You could argue that Pokemon TCG Pocket is an attempt to restart and give it a go from a simpler base than build everything up. Yu-Gi-Oh! Started with Duel Links, which was a simpler format, and that was very successful, and is still in use now before adding Master Duel. Maybe they're trying to find the right medium for fans, but the reality is business is business. You need to understand the means of the dollar outweigh the means of an opinion of me or anybody else in the fan base. But they have potential logical reasons for why we're in the current situation we are, but that doesn't mean we don't hold it accountable either, because as it currently stands, it's simply not working, and frustration grows from that. So, what can be done to improve the situation? Well, competitively, the idea is already there. Online tournaments would stop the issue of limiting players who can't go to every regional or competitive tournament. This might just be me, so ignore me if you have a completely different opinion. I will not understand your point unless you press like on the video. But I feel like regional tournaments nowadays are a bit more outdated with the internet. There is of course benefits, including seeing friends and the social aspects of it, But for the actual competitive side of it and the people who spend all their time playing and want to be the best but can't afford to do so, online tournaments is a happy medium. For the collecting side, well, I think the solution's pretty simple really. Just don't have as many sets per year and don't announce them so far in advance. This may seem like a difficult thing to achieve, but it will actually come down to bottom line and the money earned. If figures drop in sales for TCG Pokemon, they will have to look into the issues of it. We have on multiple occasions talked about the problems and costs of the TCG in general, and the only way to drastically change something is a loss or drop in revenue. Difficult to achieve? Yes. Possible? Also yes. For the casual players of the TCG, let's see what TCG Pocket could hold for us. As I've already said, the trailers could indicate there are potential steps it's taking that would improve what we currently have. Maybe TCG Pocket could hold the key to a free-to-play Pokemon TCG game that gives it its own Duel Links or Master Duel. Not the other one though, because that one didn't go too well. The TCG has some major problems at the moment, but they aren't unsolvable problems, because it should be thriving, but in the right way. As we prepare for 2025 with a new competitive format, the return of some pretty popular sets and a new TCG free-to-play game, let's hope the problems we've seen this year are not a problem in 2025, because its success and the care all the fans have for it should bring games and formats that make it better, not worse. Thanks for watching, guys. So I've had a bit of a break from YouTube recently due to moving location, but I'm now nearly settled in and will hopefully be back to normal very soon. And that's with not only video production, but will also be with streaming games hopefully in the next month or so. Make sure to check the community tab or my Twitter account for more information on that when the time comes. I will definitely be streaming here on YouTube, so it's the place to be. Make sure to like and subscribe as it really helps out the channel, and make sure to check out any of my other videos. Bye guys.